Excellent.
And we are live. Hello, everyone. Even a Taylor here. And I am here with the winners of our Canon Maxify Big Printer Prize. Joe Carson, John Matthews.
Hello.
Hello.
From the Big Apple, CitySpeakEZ.
Yep.
So one of the things that we talked about, and I want to catch up with you guys. So you guys, it's going to be like a little coffee clutch. Everyone is watching. I want to catch up with you guys about. Tell us a little bit about CitySpeakEZ. Tell me a little bit about how you started the business, and so on and so forth. Now, I can see which one is wearing the suit.
I'm John Matthews.
Okay, you're John. I see you. Great. Joe, sometimes I see you it out. So whoever you get in so we can see your suit. You guys are awesome. So cute. Property brothers.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, but you do. All right, so tell me a little bit about CitySpeakEZ. How did you start the business? How did you found the business and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, I'll start it off quickly. Joe and I were looking to take a foreign language class, specifically French, in New York City. Really what we wanted to do was get out and obviously learn how to speak French, but meet other people as well. You know, in New York City, it's a huge place. You know, going out to the bars all the time and trying to meet people, you know, it gets a little tiring. So we were looking for a new outlet, a way to connect with other people that are similar, like-minded. And we just, you know, again, wanted to learn French. So we signed up for one of the classes that we found online, gave it a shot, and realized that it was a good age demographic. It was a lot of people that were very similar to our age, our interests and passions. And what we decided was, well, okay, why don't we grab all of our students after class and let's go out into the bars and get a drink and practice speaking French in a real world situation. Of course, so it goes back into the bar ultimately at some point. But, you know, so we started thinking, this is actually great, but yet this company isn't facilitating this at all. In fact, we were just taking their students and going out and doing fun social things to practice French.
Yeah.
So we continued on through the course. You know, we were learning. It was okay. It was just kind of a mediocre. It wasn't delivering on their promise or expectations. So we decided, well, let's give this a shot. We have great ideas. You know, we do a lot of different kind of social things outside of kind of the norm, you know, going out to different classes. And we started brainstorming different ways to bring French into real life, or almost like studying abroad without ever leaving New York City.
I love that. I totally love that. And I can tell you guys that I think you are so onto something. About 1 million years ago, after I graduated college, I had these visions and so, you know, instead of taking a semester off, I wanted to make sure I had my degree, because I thought for sure I was going to meet Pierre and stay in Paris forever.
Right.
That did not happen, clearly.
Right.
But I took an Ausländer course in Germany. I lived in Munich for 4 months, and it was an intensive course, 30 people, and it's exactly like what you said. We did in this class 28 different languages. Everyone spoke at least 2 languages, but there were 28 different languages in the room.
Right.
And we actually had to speak German to understand each other. It was hysterical. And you know, where all the learning really happened is exactly like you said, it was in these social situations, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because you get a good opportunity to kind of embarrass yourself and learn a little bit through that way, right? I mean, that's the best way of anchoring it, through these experiences. So that's kind of what we scoured the city for, and it wasn't hard to find them here in New York City. You know, we got something for everything. So we kind of put those together into our classes, and we're running with it.
Fascinating. So you are offering different. So you started with French. What other languages do you offer?
So right now we have French and Spanish, building all the way up into almost an advanced level. So beginner, intermediate, up to advanced.
Do you do English as a second language?
I'm sorry?
Are you doing English?
Not yet. English is in the pipeline though. But we have a lot of demand for that as well, so we're certainly looking into that. We're building up into almost a very fluent conversational level in French and Spanish, and then slowly going to be adding in more and more languages, including English and whichever we have the most demand for, which is quite a bit actually.
Oh, I'm sure. So, so how long have you guys been around? Maybe you mentioned it, but I was like doing technology stuff.
Yeah.
So,
we just passed the year-and-a-half mark. We started off with a round of, obviously grabbing all of your friends and saying, hey, we're thinking about this company. Why don't you guys just be our test dummies and see what happens? And as you can imagine, it was a lot of mistakes and a lot of learning. But now we're up into running. We have a graduation. This is graduation week for 4 of our classes this week. So it's very exciting. So we're pleased to meet with them tonight as well.
Excellent. So, I wanted to make sure I established the fact that you guys haven't been around for a really long time. Okay, granted, I'm going to give you that you're sitting in New York City. But that doesn't, sometimes you can get really lost amidst all the different businesses and storefronts. And so driving traffic was really important. So you started by getting your friends and family, so to speak, in through the doors. But how else have you been driving traffic, and how else have people been learning about your business?
Yeah, we've done everything we could have thought of. I mean, from chalking the sidewalks in New York City streets, we're like, yeah, people are gonna just come through the doors after they see this written on the floor, right? To posting flyers that would get pulled down 2 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
But we realized, it's a lot of word of mouth. But starting off like that, it was just our friends and family. So they would tell their friends, and we got a few that way too. But we needed something bigger, obviously. So, what's bigger than New York City, right? The internet. It's bigger than everything. So it's the easiest way to reach the most amount of people. So, and the beauty of the internet is that we can really reach a targeted community and get the people that we're looking to take our class, which is a pretty select group. So, yeah, the internet is how we have a couple different online marketing tools that we use. And,
so let's talk about that, because that's how we kind of started this whole conversation. Yeah. Because you're doing a lot of different online marketing tools, and I guess my question is, and we got it down when I asked you which one. So give me a list of all the different ones you were doing, and then you told me that Yelp was really the thing, which I think is fascinating because I use Yelp a lot when I travel. Like, in fact, when we met each other in New York City, I want to eat what the locals eat, so Yelp is my friend, right, no matter where I go, even though I'm familiar with New York City. But how does Yelp, so what are all the different things you tried? Tell me why you chose Yelp, and tell me how Yelp works in a native population, so to speak, when everyone supposedly knows what everything is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we continue to use, Facebook and Twitter and social media in that regard, Google Plus, and to almost any social media outlet that we can. Yelp was very unique because, like Joe said, you can create your own kind of page, your own profile, and nobody trusts the company anymore. And that's what we learned almost the hard way. Nobody listens to us about how great our product is. Again, we take students that are learning French and put them into cooking classes in New York City and dancing classes and wine tastings. Almost anything you can imagine that is a really great event. And we talk about it very passionately, and we love it, and then nobody would really sign up for it because it's coming from the owners. So that's when we realized that Yelp is powerful in the sense that we can't control anything that goes on there, third-party source. And so we started to focus a lot on that. And there are a couple different interesting, call it a campaign, that you can do that we'll share with you our experiences, what worked for us and what didn't. But Yelp was pretty impactful and still is. As far as the quality of customer that comes to us.
So let me go. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open a window, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go to Yelp.
Okay.
So that, and I'm going to go to your page so that we can kind of see how this works, right? La la la. So it'll be very interesting to see. You'll get to experience the joys of screen share on Google.
And so what we found actually is, for a long time we were pursuing student testimonials in different ways. We thought that we had an opportunity, and we have a lot of reviews on our website specifically, and in different sources. And so we really started this kind of Yelp campaign to get reviews on our site, and how to really ask for the review and what to do and what not to do in that.
That is so interesting. Okay, so I think it's fascinating. So here you guys are. You've got you said you could create your own page. So is this created then?
Yep. So everything from adding pictures. Some of these pictures were added by other people as well, which is always cool because you get kind of the real feel, in the field pictures. These reviews are, not ours, not from us, which is what the prospective clients, want to see. Which we've been fortunate to get good reviews here. But what's nice about these too is, good or bad on Yelp, you can actually reply to that particular review, and you can do it publicly or privately, which is actually a pretty nice feature, because if you get a bad review, you obviously want to reach out to that person and see kind of what you could do better, how you could get them back, how to make things right there for them. And just as the same with a nice review, you can just reach out and show your appreciation. So it's a pretty useful tool. I mean, these reviews are, we think Yelp is probably some of the best site for these reviews, because they're just.
So I think it's fascinating. You're talking, you were talking about how Yelp has done a lot as far as your marketing, as far as how effectiveness of the marketing. And I just want to note to people that you don't have thousands of reviews. I believe you only have 4, which means that just these 4 reviews are actually driving traffic.
Absolutely, and I will point out that Yelp has a good way to prevent you from going out and asking for a review from somebody else who hasn't done it. So if you scroll down, you'll see that there's actually not recommended reviews, not currently recommended. It's grayed out. They don't want you to really see those. Those are real students, but what it is that they don't have a history with Yelp. So if it's their first review, then they'll kind of get rid of that. So you can scroll down and see that we still have other reviews.
Oh, I see what you're saying, right? But they have no refriends and they've only written 1 review. And look at this, you've got these people that are active Yelpers. And truthfully, I would not call myself an active Yelp person.
Me neither, yeah.
I use Yelp quite a bit, but I don't write very many reviews, so I would probably appear in that little box as well.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to be careful with. We've had a student at Paige on that you saw there on the not recommended. She's been a student for 2 semesters. Yet that review doesn't come up in any sort of if you were searching for it, or at least you wouldn't go to it. And she's been one of our biggest supporters. So it is kind of interesting and something to be careful of when you're hoping to get all these reviews and then they come up in the not recommended. Well, it's not as high quality.
Right. So one of the things I want to talk about is, let's talk about the fundamentals here, right? So it doesn't look like setting up a page is really hard. How long did it take you to set up your page?
Just a couple hours at most, really.
Right? Because there's nothing to do, right? You just you fill in your details here.
Yep.
I think you've got some good stuff on here. I don't know if they force you to do this, but I really love that you have public transportation listed on here as a way to get to you. I think that's really fantastic. Even for those of us that are in a small town, I'm sure there's some directions or something that you can enter. Make sure you've got that, right? I know that how do I ask this? They had, I've noticed that you've got buy a gift certificate on there. You've got your hours on there. Did you fill out every single bit, or what is there to fill out when you're creating a Yelp page?
Yeah, it's very intuitive. They walk you through step by step. They give you a kind of percentage of how much of your page is filled out. So kind of the hours was something, the last thing we put in there, but it's you're 95% done. You might as well kind of finish it up. And I think the more you have, obviously, the better. There's just more information there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we inputted all of this ourselves. I think the map pops up itself. We didn't have to actually put that in, but
wonderful.
You do have to go through kind of a verification process, which is probably a good thing to verify that you actually are that company.
Right.
But that didn't take very long either. I mean, you click a link and boom, you're verified. So.
Brilliant. So I guess the other question I have is, so now you've set up your page, and of course now comes the hardest part. And I've got several businesses you know, you're in a business that's, you know, that's very open to leaving reviews, and then you also mentioned a little earlier that people kind of don't want you to leave, you know, you're not allowed. How do you get people to leave a review? How do you encourage them? How do they know that you're even up there?
Yeah, you know, we've tried a lot of ways, and you would think, you know, if you go out to these students and they're having a great time, that you would be able to say, hey, if you really like this, would you mind leaving us a review? It helps out a lot. Well, we've all had almost, I think, a 0% conversion rate on asking for the review. And those reviews that we do have on there that are the 4 or 5 stars, those came naturally. It really does come from just having an outstanding product that people do want to actually go out of their way and go on. And if they're not an active Yelper or don't like doing that, it takes quite a bit. So asking for the review was not the most efficient, nor was offering any kind of a raffle or a prize for leaving a review also. Last summer we had a really amazing boat cruise that we went around the southern tip of Manhattan, and we said, okay, for anyone who leaves a review, we'll give you a raffle ticket, and then if you do that, you know, we'll give you a free boat cruise and a language course. Well, that didn't really net anything either. So yeah, I would have done it for that, but it's funny that you think that what you would imagine just asking for isn't what works anymore in this day and age. It really is delivering on your promise and having people want to go out of their way to help you out.
I think you're right. Hey, before we go on, I just want to make sure I acknowledge some of our visitors. We got several visitors, and we've got some comments that I really want to bring up. I'm going to put 2 up from Molly. Youngblood Geiger. Here's Molly. She says, Yelp is a great resource for SEO off-page optimization. So it sounds like Molly's a real expert, and she goes into a lot of detail here, is where she talks about advertising your Yelp link. So we were also just talking about whether you should ask people or direct people. But see, they say you can advertise for Yelp on your website. So thank you, Molly. So I really encourage folks to definitely, there's some benefit to visiting this page because there are going to be great tips. If you have Yelp tips, definitely write them in the comment section below. Thank you, Molly. So we learned that, like, asking people, doing incentives, I don't know, do you have the Yelp link anywhere, or have you just found the best thing to be give people an outstanding experience?
We absolutely do have a Yelp link, more for people to just come and check it out. You know, if they're about to buy and they're still on the fence, we give them a big link right there that they can jump onto Yelp and see the reviews, and that's helped to convert. So while it isn't a lot of Yelp reviews, the ones that we do have on there, and now we're, you know, progressively launching campaigns to get more reviews on there. But it certainly does help in the buying process. So right on the buying page, we absolutely do offer a link to get into Yelp, and if it is a student, then they can leave a review that way as well.
Yeah, it's all over our website.
So I guess so you do have a younger audience, a younger group of customers, right? And I guess I don't qualify in that demographic, but I really, really count on Yelp, especially when I'm traveling. How is it that maybe is it because New York is such a big city that people are using Yelp to find exactly, like, to choose one over another? Because I noticed on your page there were some other alternatives that people had looked at.
Mm-hmm.
So how do local people, do you know what I'm saying? Or do you find that Yelp is the place where a lot of, what would I say, you know, your demographic goes, these like 20, 30-somethings?
Yeah, I would say so, absolutely. You know, it's almost just a verb within itself. You know, it's, why don't you just Yelp a place in this neighborhood or something of that nature. So it is very a very common practice. Almost everybody I know has the app on their phones. It's so quick. So it is critical to have a good presence on Yelp, and specifically to try to get on the first page of the results. You know, we're, I think, number 6 on the first page for, say, French lessons. You know, working up into that position, it almost has its own SEO within itself. And as Molly said, it certainly does help your overall SEO. So it's so much more than just simple review anymore.
Great. So talk a little bit about how it is that you can put your description together so that you're found on Yelp, and will you be found on Google if you search? How does that work? I don't, honestly, I'm not exactly sure. Like, if I search on Google, will I get a Yelp review?
You certainly can, yeah. As far as the SEO, it's they keep that somewhat secret, just how Google does. But yeah, when we looked into it, it's about having the right kind of keywords, the right kind of descriptions within your pictures, having your reviews come up, which is, I think, from my experience, the most significant is what are the keywords your students are using, because that's, again, completely out of our control. So it's a very organic, authentic kind of a review. So if they have the right keywords in there, at least from my experience, that's what's really boosted us up into the first page of Yelp.
I think
we've seen too, it is the complete profile, completing that fully, things like that. Adding the more pictures we've added, we've seen some that way. And then, I mean, we can get into Yelp ads a little bit too, which we.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. I didn't know that ads were available, so you can advertise.
Yes, so you can advertise. We've done a couple different. There's multiple ways you can do it through Yelp, which is nice, and we have kind of tried them all here. But John's bringing it up right now, so we can kind of check it out. But yeah, the Yelp ads, even when you just sign up for these ads, it does give you some sort of benefit on your Yelp listing. We've seen boosted just by doing that. So Yelp kind of does, like you buying their product, and will, do good for you. But let's see if we can bring this up. But
I'll say that while he's bringing that up, there's a couple different choices that you can do with Yelp, and we've done almost every option available. And so maybe that would be beneficial to say what worked and what didn't in our experience. One, what you can really do is set up where you pay a monthly flat fee. That's all negotiated by the amount of ads per month. So we decided to try out, you have a designated account manager, which was great, for any questions, things like that. We decided to try 1,200 ads per month. What that ad does is, if you search for French language classes, you'll see at the very top the banner comes across, and it'll be us, and it's very important to have a good, bold content in that regard to make people click there. It also comes with other things. It comes with competitor ad suppression. So to almost, you get a little jump based upon how much you spend. You also receive a call to action button on your site, which is certainly beneficial. You get just overall more exposure, more views for your website. That all costs roughly, I believe it was $500 to $600 a month. You can tailor that all the way up to, whatever you want. Thousands of dollars a month will equal just way more ads per month. Now, what was interesting, and I'll bring up the second option, is to get rid of the account manager, get rid of some of the features like the competitor suppression and some of the ads, things like that, the call to action button, and move into something that is just, what do you want to pay for a cost per click? Now, what we saw there is when we moved to, say, $150 cost per click, we only had a very small amount of drop-off on our actual clicks to the website, on average 30 to 40 a month. So I think the important lesson is, if you're ramping up a very big sale, if you're really looking to launch a new product and you absolutely want to hammer out an incredible amount of advertising, go with the account manager, go with the call to action, get rid of your competitors. It's worth the money, I would say, to a degree. In other times, it's not worth the money, really, and cost per click is more of a suitable option as well.
I would like to bring up, though, for the account manager, kind of that route, it is a contractual obligation agreement there. I think it was either a 3-month minimum, or it might have been 6 months. So you are locked in for quite a little bit.
And you should be. And you really should, because how many times have people invested? That's the rule with advertising. It has to be long-term, otherwise it won't work, right? So talk a little bit about conversions. Did you see a difference in conversions from the people? We're talking about Yelp because, it was one of your favorite strategies, obviously, other than the word of mouth, and it's kind of an extension. It's a digital word of mouth, right? So what were your conversions like? Was there a difference between the paid and the unpaid?
Yeah, I will say so. In the month of June, we had an all-time viewing in that 6-month contract that we had of about 300, just about 400 views to our website just from Yelp alone. So that's very good. 30% of those came from the actual ads. So I think it's important to understand, in your own businesses, is 30% worth that extra $400 a month to come from the ads and some of the other exposure. As far as conversion, our conversion rate has remained just almost the same, which was kind of interesting, which is why we moved to the cost per click method. Again, we lost about 30 to 40 people a month to the website, but those that really came to our website, the conversion rate didn't fall off too much to actually making a sale.
It's still the same target coming to the website. So it was, and I think it was about they said average is 3-4%, and we had like 9%.
Yeah, so, about 9%.
Yeah, so pretty good. It's definitely something, what's nice about the cost per click, like I was bringing up with the contract, it doesn't have a contract. We can change the $150 budget any month to month. We can, if we have a big sale coming up, we can change that back to the 500, 600. So that's nice, but you have complete control over it. And it's still, like John said, it's the same target, it's the same conversion. So it's just how many people do you want coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and when you talk about if it's the same conversion, then your return on investment has got to be better with the cost per click. But that could only be also because you did the launch thing. Like, at least this is what I think I heard you say. You definitely want to make sure that when you're launching something, it's a good investment to go ahead and suppress the competition, get your call to action, like to get your brand established.
Right.
And once you're established, you can sort of pare back, and then you don't have to, you can kind of use the cost per click that way. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, exactly. And just having that control a month to month is important in our business. When we're launching a new semester, like we have one coming up in January, right now we're boosting our cost per clicks and our kind of activity on Yelp. Once the semester has launched, we can dial that back down and put that money into other areas of marketing that give a better return on investment, because we don't need that kind of exposure. We don't need 400 clicks to the website from Yelp alone. So we're using that money and spreading out in other ways. So that was a very big benefit for us to have that month-to-month control in that campaign anyways.
Well, I think that one thing I really want to summarize for folks, and I want to make sure I share some of these resources from some of our watchers. Bob has actually posted an extra link from Matt McGee's article in Search Engine Land that talked about Yelp in it. So this has turned out to be a really, really awesome SEO conversation. And once again, Molly, our SEO expert, I told her to keep posting, girly. Keep it coming. See, she's talking actually about this Google index the listings, so if a potential customer searches for your company, it does come up. That was the question I had earlier. Thank you, Molly, for answering that. So, one thing I really want to mention is that we started this whole conversation about trust and skepticism, and that you guys mentioned yourselves, this is a whole, I wouldn't even call it a trend. It's been around since something like 2008, and you guys know it. Right now, if you're a business owner and your lips are moving, people are not going to believe you. So anything you can do to supplement your word-of-mouth marketing, like a Yelp, should be done. But you're doing other things as well, and I'd venture to think that Yelp doesn't stand on its own. So what other areas are you using to drive traffic to your door?
Yeah, so recently we just kind of revamped an autoresponder newsletter system, which has been great. Putting up those registration forms on the website to receive this really cool, what we call survival guide. It's how to speak French or Spanish in a social situation. So if you're at a bar or a restaurant or anything, at a bar and you want to order a drink in French, well, you flip to that certain page. If you're cooking, you can do this. Dancing. So on our website, if you go to that, provide your name and email address, you'll receive a free download of basically our textbook, really, is what it's evolved into. So that's been a great way. So building out our newsletter list, again, all Facebook, social media. Joe just recently got into Pinterest, which, admittedly, we weren't the most savvy at social media, but now we're forced to be. So you're absolutely right. Yelp does not stand alone. There's many other ways that we're doing it, and it's kind of the combination, I think, that people really see. If they check you out on Yelp, that might be the first point of contact. They go to see and check out the reviews. Then they'll check out Facebook to see how established you are, and Twitter, and see how active you are. So combined, it really has led to a lot of students coming to the site, signing up, and filling the seats.
And I think the other thing that I really want to note, and I don't want this to be lost on people, and I'm sure it's not, I mean, a big part of your brand proposition is the social interaction that people get and the relationships they're going to develop with each other inside of this learning experience. So the next thing is CitySpeakEZ dating, right?
Yeah. We actually do have a lot of students, like, you know, it's great. Married couples come in here. They're the minority usually for something fun to do on a Thursday or so. But, yeah, we actually do see a lot of people start dating from our classes. So that's a big benefit as well.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. So let's see. So I love the fact that you've got this word of mouth. And how else are you capturing the word of mouth, right? Like, let's say, so I'm going to, you know, I've taken your classes, I tell my friends, right? So they're going to maybe sign up for your little lead magnet, your little survival guide, right? And then they'll check you out on Yelp. What else? What are some other touch points that you've noticed for your business?
You know, we recently added a chat button on our website.
Oh, I think that's great.
Yeah, and it was remarkable. I mean, it's so much fun. You can actually get it on your cell phone, and, you know, I'll be walking down the street or at a Starbucks or anywhere, and all of a sudden, you know, this little chime goes off in your phone, and you get so excited because it's somebody who really has their finger on the trigger. They're ready to buy right there. I would highly recommend it. There's a million of the companies out there. Usually they give a 30-day free trial, and we couldn't have been more pleased with it. It really does give you that touch point when they're right there about to click. And it's remarkable how little of a question a student can have that they might just close out the web page and say, I'll deal with this later because I don't get this. Like, what time does our class start? That's listed all over our website. It's intuitive to us, but students, I mean, it's almost it's crazy that they didn't see that, but they scan a website so quickly. You think you address the questions, but you're really not. So the chat button gives you that ability to right then and there say, you know, classes start at 7 p.m. and end at 9 p.m. And then you'll see a registration come through almost like that in many cases. So that's a great touch point as well. And really our amount of what we estimate in the sales process is anywhere between 4 and 6 points of contact before a student signs up.
Well, I got to tell you, nothing surprised me more than when I called you guys and you actually answered the phone, because it's an 800 number. If I see an 800 number, I'm like, oh, who am I going to get, right?
Yeah.
And I just about fell off my chair that every time I call the 800 number, I actually get you guys. And I think that has a lot to do. You talked about the chat button, and you talked about, and I know from my experience this morning where I left a Yelp review, I was moved to leave a Yelp review. Because I think that when that service goes above and beyond and just shocks people,
yeah,
it's a reciprocity thing. At least it was for me. It generally is for me.
Yeah. Yeah, Yelp's done a great job of really kind of weeding out the companies that aren't delivering on their promises. And it's been great for us and not great for our competitors in a lot of them. Some of them that have been able to slide through and not really deliver on their promise, like the competitor that we took a class for. It was really a letdown. And now, you know, Yelp's kind of weeding those out. And so people are going to be very honest, and they will be. And so you really do have that responsibility to deliver now, not just say something. You really do have to go through that.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And the other thing I've noticed is that you guys are really, you're using, I don't know if you're using Yelp or whatever, but this entire word of mouth and this entire positioning of giving people a great experience, that's what made you think of doing the chat thing. I mean, do you have anything else on your mind that's like, because that's what it seems like. It's sort of like, we want to be in conversation with you. I'm not at all surprised that you added the chat because you answered the phone.
Yeah.
Right? So, and maybe this is a lot of cool stuff that people got to remember. A company that I've worked with, my online survey company, I had no idea when I signed up with them that my customer service rep was the CEO.
Mm.
Right? Because they had just started out. The guy was, I think, in his garage, right?
Yeah.
But he was a customer service rep, and I had no idea because everything just ran like a charm. So I feel like you guys have that same kind of flavor going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, first of all, we love our students. We love every single one of them, and they're great. I mean, it's such a community that we have. We have one student who he consistently brings in, like the other weekend or other week, he brought in cupcakes for the whole class, and he made us some as well. So how do we not show up to go and meet them? So I would say another final touch point is it has to be a very kind of a flat organization that you can contact us and you can reach us at any given time. You know, we oftentimes have students say, "Hey, can I just come into your classroom and check this out? Like, what is going on here? Is this like for real?" And I'll be there, and sometimes it makes for long days. You know, they show up at 9 o'clock at night or something, but you know, it's always a pleasure to meet with one student, and so that usually leads to a sale, is when we can meet with students one-on-one and say, "This is our classroom, here's our teachers, here's some of the students." They're usually blown away, and they try to sign up right there. So, you know, outside of email marketing, autoresponders, social media, things like Yelp, Google AdWords, SEO, you know, just being available on email, phone, and chat, that really is kind of the bow on the package, I would say.
Yeah, especially our product. It's just very personal, very social. If you do go and click that that little chat button, you'll get either me or John, but we have like our little pictures on there. Like you'll get us.
Yeah.
It's not you know, a different Joe or John. It's you'll see a picture of us smiling back at you, and we're happy to help. So just like the phone, you know, we want to make it it is a very personal thing, and it's a passion. So
I don't know if we talked about this before, but one of the things that I always say to people is you want to really understand where the conversion happens, right? Like, where does the sale happen? Does it happen on the phone? Does it happen face-to-face? And then, like, what was the trigger that made that happen? Did they talk to someone? Did they see the Yelp review? Did they, you know, what was the trigger? And then once you've nailed that down, I know it seems simplistic, but I got to tell you, I've even had to take a second look at my own stuff, because sometimes you get deluded into thinking that the sale happens online when it actually doesn't. People might get interested online, or they find you online, but that's not where the decision is made always. That's not where the transaction happens. And so I feel like you guys have really been thinking about that, or not.
Well, now we are.
It's all we think about, really, actually, is trying new things and moving around. And, you know, I think that one thing, and I mentioned this to you via email, is having the right kind of voice for your clientele. And I wrote you that email that I said I always read all of yours because I just like how it speaks to me. It's very conversational. You know it's coming from a real person, and it's enjoyable, and I want to take a couple minutes out of my day to read it. So that was, once we kind of were not afraid to speak in our own voice and use these kind of words that aren't professional. You know, we both have corporate America backgrounds, so to break off the handcuffs of HR, you know, specifically, it was very difficult and unnatural. But that was huge for us, really. And it's the video on the homepage is me talking, and that was 8 in the morning on maybe 1 or 2 takes, and we said, let's just run with that, because that's a real conversation that we want to have. So being very real was huge, and going for that and not being afraid. It's a little scary sometimes to hit the send button on some of these things where it's like, get out there and, you know, take a kick-ass language class. Sometimes it's like, all right, is that going to work? But it generally does.
I think we have BS radar, you know, as I was talking about earlier. There's been so much research done on this, and the data keeps coming back again and again with the same results, and that is the trust factor is out the door, and people, their BS meter is completely on, and the only way you're going to actually get that engagement is by being yourself and being real. That's why I'm always saying marketing isn't about what you do, it's about who you are. And people make that, in fact, something like that amygdala, your little lizard brain, 0.08% of your brain makes 90% of your decisions.
Wow.
And the rest is just a justification. So it's, once again, it's the know, like, and trust factor that's been absolutely proven again and again, and I think you guys are learning that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
And Yelp is helping in the process. So I know that we didn't cover everything there is to know about Yelp, but I really wanted to have our audience talk to some people that have been on the court with this thing, not Yelp experts, right? But you know, real guys running a business.
Yeah. Now, there is one other piece of honor that we've tried before, and we didn't like it. It didn't work for our model on Yelp, and that was to put a deal or a kind of a discount through Yelp. So something to be aware of there is, yeah, it's going to attract more people, and you can totally set the discount rate that you want. I think we did 10% or something like that. But Yelp does take a substantial amount of that money. So not only are you just discounting that, we didn't look into it. We said, okay, we have a few more seats to fill. Let's just throw out a discount out there. And all of a sudden, it's like 3 months later, you get a check, like a physical check, in the mail, and it's substantially lower. So it's worth looking into. I believe they took even 30 or 40% of all that revenue as well, which for us brought us below our break even per student, and it wasn't worth it. It could be worth it in some cases, something to be aware of though.
Oh, I love that. Now, have you done any of the Groupon Living Social stuff?
We have, yeah. Yeah, we've done those. Similar story. It's
similar story.
Good
That's
exposure. Yeah.
You know, I don't always advocate that, although, you know, I've used, how do I say this? I've used them in the past, meaning that I have purchased things, right? Restaurants and whatever, and I think it's okay from time to time, but the next thing you know, you get people addicted to it, right? Or you truly get the tire kickers and the price shoppers. I mean, you would have to have a ridiculous experience to then pay full price, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, at least for me, it seems that what you offer, the experience is such that it's like priceless, not to sound like MasterCard or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It can be completely addictive, and you know, we tried that out one semester, and it was thrilling because all of a sudden one day your email is just like registration, like one after another, all the way. I could get used to this, and then you see that your take home, you know, your net profit, and it's you're right. They're trained now at that price point. It's very difficult to train them or make them essentially double that and repeat in. And that particular semester, we didn't have a single reoccurring student. So that was it. It just wasn't the method there. And yeah, I can see how people really do. And once you're known for offering those, they'll say, I'll just wait until they do it again.
Oh, okay. So one last question before we go, because I've kept you too long. We've talked about Yelp and, you know, how to do it and so on and so forth. Now, do you have any, I don't want to say disadvantages, but for whom would you say that Yelp is really not, like, it won't, you know, you're not going to get anything out of it? Have you had any experience like that? You may not have an answer to this question. I'm just, you know, but as a recommendation, right? If somebody said to you, oh, you did Yelp, it worked for you, I'm going to do it too. Like, for example, I'm not on Yelp, right? Because I'm not a brick and mortar.
Yeah, right. And that's all it is for. It's for brick and mortar. I would say it's a little off topic there, maybe hits on a couple different things, but it is, as John brought up before, about hitting multiple kind of pipelines through these, you know, through internet marketing. Because, like you said, if you're not on Yelp, you're not going to see us. But if you're on Facebook, then you can find us there too. You'll see us on Twitter. You'll see us on Google+. You'll see us on Google AdWords. It is, and that's an easy way to get the multiple touch points that's needed to drive the sale. So I don't know if that completely answers that question, but it's not just about Yelp from what we found. It's a combination of a lot of things.
I would say that Yelp, I know who it is for. It's for those that are in the industry with a ton of competitors. That's what it really is. If you're more of a niche product and you don't need that kind of edge up on your competition, or there's enough room in the whole space for multiple competitors to, kind of in that parking space, then it becomes less and less important. In a foreign language school in New York City, we have a ton of competitors that are always trying to chase us around and kind of do what we're doing, and they can try to mimic the process because there's nothing that we can essentially say, no, you can't go do that. You can't take your class out to a bar. But what it does change is exactly what people on Yelp say about us, and that is who it's for. High competitors, the more you need Yelp, and that's how it is.
I love that. And I'm going to stop it like right there. I think that's an awesome tip to leave on because, I mean, that's practical. You either fit that or you don't fit that. So,
yeah.
Joe Carson, John Matthews, thank you so much from
CitySpeakEZ
in New York City. So I wish I were there to take one of your classes. Sounds like a lot of fun. And if you are in New York City, check them out, CitySpeakEZ.com. What's your Twitter? At CitySpeakEZ, right?
Yep.
Excellent. And you guys can find them on Yelp. Check them out. And thank you all for joining us for That Was Easy.
Yeah.
High five.
Thanks.